Welcome to And How Does It Make You Feel? My name is Story. All right, we are back with another great episode. This is part one, actually, for you all today, because both parts, we just needed to split it into two. It was amazing information. And this one, I'm kind of geeking out about because we're talking about human design. And if you don't know what that is, I would describe it as a self-awareness system that gives you a personal energetic blueprint. So it's like a user manual for how your energy naturally operates, how you're meant to make decisions, interact with the world, and flow through life with less resistance. So it's not telling you what to do. It's just sort of telling you hey, if you want to do this thing, here's the best way to do it and work with your natural energy. I love it. Everything you may have thought was wrong with you, HD says, actually, that's what's right about you. And I love it. I, along with many of my friends, even the ones who even hate astrology, I kid you not, really resonate with HD. And I'm excited to share with you all the wonders of this system and how you can begin to use it. Especially if you've been asking yourself, what am I meant to do? What is my path of least resistance? What's my ideal career path? Those sorts of questions. I think this is definitely the episode to watch and to listen to. But before we begin, let me introduce our guest for today, the amazing Rachel Starr, who after a successful but unfulfilling career in tech, set off to uncover what makes people successful and satisfied. She discovered the systems of astrology and human design, studied, applied them for years, and exchanged her 9-to-5 for the entrepreneur's adventure. And now she shares her insights from the cosmic cutting edge. Rachel's work is for ambitious people ready to use their unique genius to create wealth, positive impact, and personal fulfillment. She helps entrepreneurs with personal branding, business, and leadership. I am so incredibly excited to share Rachel's wisdom, light, her energy, her expertise with you all today. Like I said, this part of the episode, this part one, is just already jam-packed with so much knowledge. And then in part two, we'll go into more. So I hope to see you there. If you at any point are enjoying this episode or the second part of the episode, make sure to like and comment. I love reading what parts of the episode people resonate with. I love seeing what you all have shared. Make sure to use the hashtag @myth. So it's just the first letter of And How Does It Make You Feel? On social media, if you do share anything, or join our Patreon. Yes, we have a Patreon link in our bio and a description where we'll release episodes early. I actually am starting to do the first giveaway. So that is, I'm actually having you all pick which gift you want. And then in June, doing the giveaway. I think some of the gifts are like a self-care basket, a massage, a bouquet of flowers. So you all can choose for this first giveaway what you want. And then in June, we'll start. It's very simple. You just need to be a Patreon member. That's it. And then you are entered to win. We'll also have additional content and just much, much more. So if you feel led to join our Patreon, and yeah, let's dive in. Rachel Starr, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's such a pleasure and an honor to have you here. I came across your page because I think you had followed me, but then I didn't see anything. So I was just going through my For You page, and then I saw human design, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I came up to your page, and let me just say, you pack so much knowledge in those TikToks and in the podcasts that you do. It's such great information, and it's easily digestible, which I love.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me because I really do try to give value. I never want to be kind of one of those, I don't know, business and life coaches. It's just fluff. It's you have to pay me thousands to get the good stuff. No, I'm going to give you the good stuff from day one.
See, and then when people actually apply it, they're like, oh, she's the real deal. So let me come
Exactly.
back and
Exactly.
hear more.
It's all about value. Exactly.
I have to ask before we start too, and we talked a little bit about it before we start recording, but is there anything you learned during this eclipse slash retrograde season? Because I know it kicked my ass. So,
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. The last, I called it March Madness because we had, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and then eclipses. We had one in Virgo, one in Aries at the same, all in the same month. And then of course we had, Neptune moving from Pisces into Aries. It's been in Pisces for 14 years. So we had all these kind of like big moments in astrology. And yes, I mean, during this last season, this last eclipse season and retrograde season, of which we're kind of integrating right now, I learned a lot about my standards. I think that was like this overall kind of big picture lesson that I've been learning intensely for the last year and a half of my nodal return, but it intensified this year, is that I needed to raise my standards in several areas of my life in terms of my relationship, which I'm now a single mom. And so I intentionally made a very empowered, decision to become a single mom. And so the raising my standards in my relationship led me to realize that I needed to raise my standards in lots of other places, like in my relationship with money, in the way I run my business, the way I allow myself to be supported by my friends. Like I just needed to realize that I deserve better. And that was hard for me because I do have South Node in Libra and I am a Libra. And so I'm always thinking about how can I make other people comfortable?
right.
But now I'm in this new era of like, well, what about me? Like, how do I make myself comfortable, happy, fulfilled? And I deserve that the same way everyone else deserves to prioritize themselves. So that was really, I would say, the biggest lesson that I was like whacked over the head with in the best way this retrograde season. So, but it's because I was ready to learn it. It's like this lesson has come to me many, many times in my life, but I feel like this was the denouement, like this was it. And so, yeah, so I'm feeling very, very good about it, but it was intense for sure.
I think the self theme kind of was also what I learned, but it was more so listening to myself, trusting
Mm,
myself, following my first mind, right? Following
yes.
that I guess I don't know if you would call it a gut instinct because I am a
Mm.
manifesting generator. So I'm like,
Are
oh,
you?
that
Okay, I was going to
I
ask.
am.
Yes, me too.
I am a
Yeah.
Manny Jin, so and
Mhm.
I'm a sacral authority.
Okay, yes,
So I have to
mhm,
listen to that, that first
definitely.
ping that I get. And
Yes,
I'm
what is the
learning.
gut saying? It's very clear usually, but you just have to trust it, right?
I just have to trust it, even if it makes no sense. I'm like, I'm just going to
Mhm.
go with my excitement. It's fine. And that
Yes.
usually works out for me. It's when
Mhm.
I, think about it too much, I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's when it just goes downhill. So that
Mhm.
whacked me over the head. And I had to learn that. But like you
Yeah.
said, in the best way.
Mhm.
And I guess to start, what led you to human design? Because I know a little bit about like you had this unfulfilling job in tech. So you
Mhm.
can start
Yes.
there, you can start before.
Yes.
So I want to know
Mhm.
your journey into discovering the system.
Oh, definitely. So, yes, I worked for management consultancy in tech, and I was in management consulting in tech for about like almost a decade. And I was working at Deloitte, great job, high flying, expense account. Everyone thinks you're really smart when you work at some place like that, which is great for your ego. And I was completely unfulfilled. I was so frustrated on a day-to-day basis, just thinking like I should be happy. I should be, like this is the path, like, this is the ladder. And people would come to me and they would say, oh, so you're on the partner track, right? Like you're going to make partner. That's like your, that's your thing. That's what you want to do. And I was like, nope. And then they're like, well, what do you want? And I was like, good question. So I had to go and figure it out. I was like, what do I really want? I thought this was what I wanted. I thought that, being on this corporate track, climbing this ladder was correct for me. But I realized as I started asking myself the hard questions that I was on the wrong ladder. I am very ambitious. I want to make a lot of money. I want to make an impact in the world. And I did not feel like I was able to do that last one, especially in a corporate environment. And so I thought, okay, well, what should I do? So I really kind of went on this journey of self-exploration because, when you are thinking about making a career change, when you're thinking about what should I do, the next question is, what do I want to do? And then you're thinking, well, what do I want to do? And all of these other questions come up. I was just listening to the podcast, Diary of CEO, the episode that just came out with Michelle Obama. And she talks about the same thing. It's like up until like that kind of post university, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? She was just ticking boxes like, well, I'm smart and I can achieve and I can get this big job and I can do this and this. That's how I felt. I felt like I was just ticking boxes. And so now, I mean, I'm in a wildly different place now. And it took me a while to get here, to feeling fulfilled, to knowing exactly my purpose. But it was this journey into the self, journey into who am I, that where all of these kind of answers came. And so I started with astrology. I started with, actually, no, that I would say I started with meditation. So I started with meditation first because my body was freaking out as well as my mind. It was just all connected. A lot of times when we know there's something we need to change, our body will start shouting at us. And I was just having like really, really irregular menstrual cycle. I was exhausted all the time. I just knew like my vision was blurring. I was like, there's something going on here. This is not right. So I started with meditation and groundedness because I was so ungrounded. And then that led me to working with the moon cycles, which led me to working with astrology, which led me to an event that I went to where I started hearing about human design. And I was like, what is this? This is amazing. If astrology taught me so much about myself, my complexity, how to love myself, how to be myself, then human design was just like the next level. And so through exploring that, I started realizing, well, I just couldn't shut up about it. Like I was just telling everyone, every dinner I went to, I'm like, let me look up your chart. Like, I'm still that girl. Like I will always just want to look up I had a matcha with a friend like 2 days ago and I was like, let me see your chart. So I'm always that person because it gave me a language to understanding myself and how I needed to live my life. And I want to help other people speak that language. It was just like this incredible clarity that I never had before. So then, one thing led to another and I ended up starting an events business and realized I didn't want to do that, but I loved coaching people. So then I started my coaching business and the rest is history and I created Cosmic Queen. So it's been an amazing journey to this point.
What a journey though. And I always remember, I forget, he was the director, I think, of the college I went to. And I'm kind of the same way where I was like, what's my purpose? What makes me happy? And he would tell me, well, life will show you. Just go through it and there will be prompts like for you.
Yes.
Oh, I don't want to do this. People are asking me what I want to do and I don't want to do this. And so it just kind of leads you in a beautiful way right to what you're meant to do. And I am kind of the same way. So it's funny because a lot of people who I talk to about astrology will say, okay, yeah, whatever. The second I bring up human design, they're like, wow, what is this? This resonates. Like this actually hits the mark for me. But I always have such a hard time explaining in like, very general terms, what is it?
Yeah.
How would you describe human design for someone who's never heard of it before?
Oh, yes, this is such a good question. So with human design, I describe it as a system of energy and personality. I think astrology is much more about personality only. And it's like, here's your gifts, here are your blind spots, here are the things that motivate you in life. And it's incredibly important. I have to use both. I can't just do one at this point. I've tried and then I'm like, no, let's just look at your rising sign. I have to use both. But then human design brings the energy piece in. And I think this is where people get really excited because that gives a sense of the how. I think with astrology, you get the what and the who, but with human design, you do get some of the strategic way in which you live your authentic life. And it's because it shows you how your energy naturally flows and interacts with the world. And so with human design and understanding certain aspects of your centers and your body graph and your chart and your aura, and your profile lines, you can see, this path or this way of being and working and running my career is going to be more easeful for me. Not easy, but it's going to work with my natural energy versus
Mm-hmm.
this path. I can still become successful this way, but it's going to be a lot harder. So it really shows you the path of least resistance and living an authentic life. And I think that's why a lot of people resonate with it as soon as they start hearing some of the insights, because it's got that practical magic aspect of it. And that's what we want. We don't just want to kind of know conceptually about ourselves these days, especially in such a rapidly changing world. Our relationship with technology, our relationship with our social life is everything is
Mm-hmm.
changing. We want to know, okay, how? What's the strategy? What's the way that I can best live my life? And how can I not waste my time? So in that way, I would say human design is just incredibly profound.
It is so like the whole how can I not waste my time is
Hmm.
the reason that I was so drawn to human design because
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily tell me, "Oh, you should be doing this really specific thing." It's just like, "Okay, if
Right.
this is what you want,
Hmm.
here's the best path to getting it." And it's so
Hmm.
affirming. As a
Yes.
manifesting generator, I'm like, wow, I'm so multifaceted. I can't stick with one thing. What's wrong with
Mhm.
me? But then human design came in and said, well, actually, that's great. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep pivoting. Keep being
Yes.
multifaceted.
Yes. Exactly. This is what's so nice is it's so, like you said, affirming and validating. A lot of times people start hearing about themselves in human design and they're like, oh, I thought that was a problem. I thought that was
Yes.
something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt too. I felt like it reframed everything I believed about myself and thought about myself, and in a way that felt very empowering and showed me that there's nothing wrong with me. Actually, all the things I thought were wrong are so right. I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't leaning in. I just wasn't using them or understanding how that could be positive. So, yeah, as an example, I am emotional authority in human design. And there are 7 different authorities. It's basically your decision making process if anyone's interested in learning about this. But when I discovered that, it gave me a language to these big feelings I felt inside of me and these high highs and low lows I was experiencing in my life. I just thought I was like emotionally unbalanced. Maybe I was a bit crazy. Something's wrong with me. Why can't I just be cool, calm, collected, and logical all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought this was a problem. And then I
Yeah.
realized, oh my God, I'm emotional authority. I am someone who is meant to have high highs and low lows, but I need to build an awareness of this so I can be more in tune with myself and so that I can notice that emotions are information and they're helping me understand how I'm reacting to what's going on in my life and when something's off or when something's on. And also help me to realize the best way I make decisions is not immediately in the moment. Like
Yeah.
you're sacral, so it's totally different,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not meant to make quick decisions in the moment. I'm not meant to be impulsive in that way, even though I'm a manifesting generator. And so my way of manifesting generatoring is completely different from other people. And it gave me so much more of this, like, just like you said, self acknowledgement, self like validation. And I just became like, it was this click of like confidence overnight where I realized, oh, yeah, okay, cool. And then I let the drama go. And I think a lot of times our drama in life about ourselves is just because we don't understand ourselves. We haven't put our gifts and our challenges into context. And so the
Yeah.
drama just left my body. And I was like, oh, it's okay that I have big feelings. In fact, that just means that I have this like really intense, beautiful relationship with life. I live life in Technicolor, and that's a beautiful thing.
I think now people, if they haven't aren't weren't interested, they're probably really interested now. So I think it would be
Mhm.
super fun for the audience to first, if they haven't, get their chart, get their human
Yes.
design chart.
Mhm. And
What would you
I
recommend?
can say, yeah, so I
Yeah.
recommend that people go to jovianarchive.com, Jovian archive.com. That is, I believe, one of the most kind of accurate platforms to use to get a free chart. So I always tell people to go there.
And you will need your birthday, right? Where you were
Oh, yeah.
born, and
And your birth
perf-
time.
yes,
Yeah, because
preferably an accurate one. Mm-hmm.
the chart can change every 4 minutes. So it's so important that you have an
Oh
accurate
wow.
birth time. If you don't have an accurate birth time, go to a professional and get your chart rectified. Usually you can find an astrologer that can do that for you, and they can help you get, like me as well, and you can help get an accurate time, and then you can do it. But yeah, that's very, very important.
Okay, so for the audience listening, if you haven't, you can pause right now, pull up your chart, because I would love for you to walk us through some of the
Yeah.
core components that they'll see in their chart. So
Oh, definitely.
let's just start with the types. What are
Yes.
the types? And then can you give us like little snippets of each one?
A little gem for each one. So yeah, in if you're familiar with astrology, you probably know about the big three. So in astrology, it's like sun, moon, rising, and I would add midheaven. So I call it the big four. In human design, you have a big four as well. So you want to do type, strategy, authority, and profile lines. So those are really the best place to start. Don't worry about all the little numbers. Don't worry about, trying to understand the nine shapes, which we call the nine centers. I would, although we can go over some of that if you want, but I would start with type, strategy, authority, and profile lines. So your type, there are 5 different types. You could be a manifestor, a projector, a generator, a manifesting generator, or a reflector. And so if you look at the chart that you've got, you're one of those. Now, manifesting generator is a hybrid type. So it's a hybrid of the generator and the manifestor. Some websites will just bag it all together with generator. I don't. I definitely think there are 2 distinct types of people. But yeah, I can give you a gem for each one of those. So it type is created by the placement of the planets at the time that you were born and how it lights up and activates your centers and your channels in your chart. And so it really showcases how your energetic field, which we can call the aura, interacts with the world. What's the easier way for you to interact, and what's going to be the more challenging path. So type has to be the first thing that you start with. And by the way, it's great to look up your family and friends as well, because you'll start to realize, oh, that's why we're so different, or that's
Right.
why we gel together, right? It's really cool for that as well. So manifestors are the disruptors. They're the ones who have the ideas, they're ideas people, they're change makers. Often they have these kind of new ways of seeing the world that people are maybe not quite yet ready for. And so what's really important for them is to be really courageous in terms of sharing their ideas and really kind of being that head of the revolution to go in and change something. So if you're in a career where you're not allowed to do that, and you're more about, you're in a role where you just have to keep to the rules and continue the status quo and keep everything quiet, and that's not going to work for you. Like, you need to be that person who's going out there who's just like, yeah, I'm going to make things happen. I'm just ready to change things. That's you as a manifestor, for sure.
Trailblazers, for sure.
Trailblazers. Definitely. And then we have projectors. So projectors are the advisors and the guides. They can sometimes, on the negative side, when you were a kid, if you were told you were a know-it-all, you might be a projector, but you do know a lot. So you are the person who has the answers, and you got all the advice for everyone. You might end up being accidentally like everyone's therapist, because you have that big sister energy, that mentorship energy. You know the steps that person needs to take to get to where they want to go. But, and this is a big but, right, is that you have to be careful that you're not kind of giving over these pearls of wisdom to people who are not ready to hear it. If you're speaking to family and friends and they haven't asked for your advice, then it's going to get rejected. So it's so important for projectors to be in a role where that is actually required of them, where they get to be the person directing people and they get to be the person advising and guiding.
Yeah, I know a lot of projectors. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
me too.
maybe you should just like wait for people to ask for your
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, maybe you
Yeah.
should like save your advice for people who really want it, because there are people who really want it, right? And it's one of those things, again, like we were saying, often when we're young, we're told that the things that are actually our genius, we're told that they're wrong. So a lot of times projectors get told when they're kids, don't tell people what to do. You think you know everything, like da da da, you're know-it-all. But actually, that is a huge strength that they need to be using in adulthood, and they could be paid the big bucks for that. So yeah, it's just amazing learning about your human design.
Now,
So
what about us
yeah.
manifesting generators?
Okay, manifesting generators. Yes. So manifesting generators are a hybrid of manifestor and generator. So they have the manifestor side of being ideas people and liking to move really fast. They like to take things from idea to reality in light speed, and they like to skip steps and take big risks. And that's a beautiful thing. But then they're actually 80% majority generators. So generators are people who are creative and they're builders, and they like to create things and leave a legacy and really just create something out of nothing. So they have a mix of being idea and execution, which is really cool. They have big energy, they often have big personalities. It doesn't mean they're loud, they just have a big presence because they have, like I said, both of the ideas and the will and the energy to execute on those ideas. They're really kind of like a newer, more edgy kind of version in the human design. Manifesting generators haven't been around forever. They're kind of more in the last like 200 years. They've really come to the fore, and they're showing us a new way where it's not just about, hey, you need to, for manifesting generators, they typically do not have just one career for life. They like variety. They like to move fast and try a bunch of different things, and they're not here to finish everything. So they're kind of showing us, hey, it's okay to just experience life to the fullest. You don't need to like become an expert in everything. You're actually just here to experience the fullness of life. And so often, you know, if you're in a role where you're only doing one thing forever, you're going to get really bored as a manifesting generator. And that's what happened with me. I was like, okay, like I'm good at this thing, but like I'm really bored now. What do I do next? So you want to have a career or a business where you're, or maybe multiple businesses where you're able to do a variety of things and constantly be having new experiences.
So then what makes a generator different?
Yes. So a generator is different because they don't have that manifestor piece about risk taking, moving fast, and having a lot of wild ideas. They are more of the people who really like to master things. We talk about the word mastery a lot with generators. They like to be the experts. They like to go deeper into a topic and just become the best at it. You know, they're very ambitious. They do have this real creative side, this real, like, I want to build something. I want to create a legacy. I want to make an empire. Like, they have this aspect of like wanting to become the best. And that is so admirable and it's amazing. And they have to be careful that people don't take advantage of that, right? I see a lot of times like generators in the corporate world, and they just become workaholics because they're like, well, they have so much energy. They are highly capable, but then they end up just kind of working for someone else, and they forget about their own dream. Generators are supposed to be fueled by passion. So if you're not doing something that brings you and satisfies a lot of your passion and brings you pleasure, then you're not really satisfying that creative side of yourself as a generator. I mean, you're an artist, you need to do your art. And so it's really important for them to honor that in themselves.
And then reflectors, I feel like they're such a
Yeah.
small group, and I never
Yes.
really hear anything about them, but what
Oh,
makes
yes.
them so special?
So
Because I think
special.
they
Yes.
are special, like
They are,
amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a client right now who's a reflector, and I did a human design summit a couple years back with reflectors, and it's just they're very rare, like you said. So it's about 1 to 2% of the population are reflectors. So if you have someone in your family, or if you are a reflector listening to this, just know that like your experience is so unique and rare, and it's so important. It's even more important for you to learn how to live in a way that works for your type. So reflectors are really the oracles and the intuitives. They're mystical, magical beings, and they really experience life in a different way from everyone else, and they see things at a level that is different from everyone else. Every reflector I've ever met has this sense of like seeing below the surface. They really know what's actually going on. And the reason that they're called reflectors is because they through their own health and well-being, but also their insight, reflect back to the rest of the world how we're doing, right? So if a reflector's not doing well, if they're getting sick, if they're not well emotionally, mentally, physically, like there's something wrong in the environment around them. It's like the idea of the canary in the coal mine. Or I like to use the example of like the sea anemones. Like they're, the sea anemone is on the coral reef, but then they're feeling the water and something toxic comes along. They don't do very well. They're like, oof, that's bad. And so reflectors really have this deep sense of intuition and knowledge that goes beyond logic. They really have this instinct for things. So if you hire a reflector to come into a team, pay attention to how they're doing, pay attention to what they say, because they know things beyond what we can kind of see. They understand what's going wrong, what's not, what's right, what's wrong, and what we need. So it's very interesting. It's just highly, highly intuitive, and their environment is really important. They are very unique because they have a lot of openness. And so their environment, like where they live, who they're surrounding themselves with, matters a lot more than the other types. The other types can kind of shield themselves a little bit easier. But with reflectors, it's so important that they curate their environment to make sure that they can be at their peak performance so they can hear their intuition.
It's like, so they're like a sponge, pretty much.
Yeah.
They just like kind of
But
soak in.
well, I would say more like an anemone than a sponge, because a sponge soaks things in. They're not, if they're healthy and they've got really solid, like if their aura is working the way it's supposed to, they have a sampling aura, then they're just tasting things. They're not actually absorbing them. Because if they
Gotcha.
absorb too much toxicity from the environment, right, then they get sick. And so they really need to just taste things. So I wouldn't say sponge. I would say more just sampling. They're sampling stuff. Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
so you mentioned authority with the reflectors, or their sampling. So
Mm-hmm.
going back through the types too, I know for me as a Manny Gen, my strategy
Mm-hmm.
is wait to respond.
Yes.
I would really like you to explain a lot, all of the authorities, because I think sometimes
Mm-hmm.
there's misinformation on like how to actually use
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yes.
Because
That's
for
very true.
me, it's like, oh, so then I just sit around and don't do anything. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no.
I know. It's like, that's not, that one sentence doesn't really explain everything. So yeah, so there's two different things in human design. So there's strategy and authority. So strategy is based on your type. So I'll go through those, and that's what you were mentioning about to respond. Authority is that there are 7 different authorities, and those are your decision making processes. So say your
Wow, there's
sacral, your
7.
splenic. Yeah, there's
Okay.
7. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like for example, if you're a projector, you can be, I think 5, no, there are 4 of them that you can be if you're a projector. So that's not based on type. That's more based on the which centers you have defined and all that kind of stuff. So we won't talk about authority just yet, because that's the decision making process. But strategy is so important. This is really, when I say it, human design is more strategic, this is what you want to pay attention to, is how do I live my life, and how am I interacting with the world? So as you said, well, let's take it from the top. So with manifestors, their strategy is to inform. And what that means is that as they move through life, they're having these big ideas, they're moving quickly, they're taking big risks and leaps. They need to inform people about what they're going to do. It's not asking permission, it's informing, because if you don't inform people, people will try to stop you and slow you down because they don't know what you're doing. Right? It's just think of any corporate environment. If you're trying to spin up a new project and you don't tell anyone, what's going to happen? You're going to have the book thrown at you. They're going to be like, "Wait, whoa, you didn't get permission. We don't know what you're doing. What's happening?" So, in order to avoid that and actually be kind of have more smooth runway, manifestors need to inform people to let them know, "Hey, I'm going over here. Hey, I'm going to do this project over here." And
Right.
that's how you make sure that things go smoother for you.
Yeah, I know some manifestors too. And oftentimes when they inform me of, or they don't inform me of something, I'm like, whoa, like caught off
Yeah.
guard. It's
Yeah.
very like jarring
Yes.
almost.
Yes. And of course, they think that they're moving, that, oh, if I just keep this to myself, then no one will get in my way. But actually, that doesn't bear out in reality. In reality, if you keep things to yourself and spring them on people, people will slow you down because they haven't been taken on the journey. So you really have to take people on the journey. And it's a skill that like all manifestors need to learn. It's not easy though.
Yeah,
And it's the same for us, same for manifesting generators. We have to inform as well. I'm not very good at that, so that's something I'm still working on. I just
I
want to
am.
don't. I don't want to slow down to explain myself. Yeah.
I do it
So,
because I feel
yeah.
like it's part of my like decision making process. Like I
Oh,
love
okay. Yeah.
telling people about my things because I'm like maybe they have something, and maybe that's the I'm a 1-3 profile, so like
Okay. Yeah. 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 There you go.
research, you know.
Yes. Yeah. That would be the one as well as like, let me like communicate a little bit more. Yeah. I love that. That makes sense. So then we have the projector. So projector's strategy is called wait for the invitation. So waiting, they're designed, as I was saying earlier, to only give their wisdom and their guidance and their advice to people who are ready for it. So that means basically only give it to people who invite you and say, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, I need your advice on this. Hey, I'd like to pay you for this, right? Only do that. Only wait for the invitation. Now, the word wait confuses people a lot, like waiting to respond for generators and waiting for the invitation for projectors. Wait just means don't give your gifts yet. That's all it means. It doesn't mean don't do anything, right? So what I often say to projectors is that what you want to do while you're waiting to be invited or hired is be very visible and be sharing your perspective and your point of view. So if you do that, you're going to get more invitations and you're going to get better invitations. If you are visible and you're like, hey, I'm an expert in this area. Here's my perspective. Here's my trademarked approach. This is what I do. Of course, you're going to get better invitations with that than with someone who's hidden and mysterious and you don't really know what they do or what kind of advisor they are. So
Right.
it's wait for the invitation, but be visible while you're waiting.
And like you said, that attracts people to be like, oh, actually, I want your advice now because I
Yeah.
see
Oh
what
my
you're
gosh.
doing.
Yeah, I needed that. Exactly.
And
And then, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I think we're on the same track here with the manifesting generators, right? Like,
Yes.
or the generators too, waiting to respond. What does that even
Yes.
look like?
What does that even mean? I know. It's like a whole thing. It's a dance. So this is how I want people to think about it. So the primary strategy for generators is wait to respond, and for manifesting generators, it's a mix of wait to respond and inform. So the waiting to respond means that in order for you to give your gifts, your gift of creativity, your art, your passion, your capability, you're just like this incredible like whirlwind of creativity that you have as a generator, you don't want to give that unless you're responding to something, because your genius comes when you respond. So I have a couple of analogies for this. So one is like a chef, 5-star chef. That's who you are. You are a wizard with food. Are you going to make a meal for someone when you don't know what they want? You could. That's a thing. But that's
Okay,
kind of
yeah,
a gamble, right?
right.
That's kind of a gamble if someone's going to actually enjoy the meal. And that's what you want. You want them to experience the same pleasure and passion that you do. So you need to wait for the order to come in, right? So you want to hear the feedback. Hey, everyone's loving Mexican food right now. Okay, cool. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to whip up an incredible Mexican feast, right? So that's what you need to do as a generator or a manifesting generator, is like pay attention to the orders that are coming in. Pay attention to the questions people ask you. Pay attention to the signs that you receive from the universe. Pay attention to the things that people around you are struggling with, especially if they're people you think could be, clients or customers or could hire you for something. Like, I'm always thinking business wise, right? That's why most of my examples are business wise. But, pay attention to what you're seeing and hearing and listening to in the world. And from that, those are like little pings, little hints, little clues, little orders coming in. You can then present and create your masterpiece, and it will land, right? It's not just something you created purely for yourself in a vacuum. It's something you're creating in this dance with the universe.
So it's like a almost like economics, right? Like you kind of
Mm,
wait for, or you see what the market needs and then you give it to
mm-hmm,
them. It's like a
mm-hmm.
supply and demand sort of thing. Like I'm the
Yes.
supply and I'm looking for the demand of what they
Uh-huh.
need from
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. I'm looking for the demand. Exactly, exactly. And sometimes it's a little bit like projectors where you want to start talking about something to gauge the demand, right? So if you think that there's a market out there for, single moms that want to get back into dating, but you're not really sure, right? So start talking about it. Start talking about why you're passionate about these people, why you want to help, why you're just so lit up by this kind of challenge that presents itself. And then start having a conversation with your people on social media and seeing, oh, okay, so they like this too. Yeah, there's definitely a market for this. And then, oh, I'm surprised it's actually single moms with kids that need more help. So maybe you're starting to get this feedback, right? And then you're in this kind of like I say, this dance with your people, this dance with the universe, where you're saying something, you're getting feedback. It's like call and response. That's what's happening. You're not sitting still waiting, but there's this call and response thing happening, and then that's helping you hone your idea and your service and your product, so that when you present it, it's just exactly what you love and exactly what they wanted.
And so then reflectors, like,
Oh
what are
yes.
they doing?
So reflectors, their strategy is to allow things to unfold. So it's very like woo, right? Like
Yeah.
all of reflectors stuff is very mystical, magical. It's not like a set strategy, like do these 3 steps. It's very much there's one step, and it's allow things to unfold, because it's that whole kind of, it's like fishers, right? Like people who fish or whatever. Like, you can't force the fish to appear. You have to wait for them to appear and then strike. It's like you have to allow things to unfold. And reflectors' greatest genius comes out in the flow of time. So where they're not pushing, they're not initiating, they're not forcing, but they're allowing things to unfold around them. So I always say that reflectors have to have this really unique relationship with time. They need to basically operate outside of time. And I know that sounds so crazy, but I think reflectors will understand what I mean there. It's like, what is time, right?
Yeah.
What is time? They need to have this sense of trust in this trust in the timeline. That's so funny. I was talking about time and my alarm goes off.
It's
Well,
all
I'm
in
not a
alignment.
I'm not a reflector, so it's fine. But yeah, they need to not set the alarm. They need to just let things happen and let things unfold, and then notice and be very open and really be paying attention, because you can't say I'm going to let things unfold and then stop listening to the universe, right? Like you need to stay open and have those anemone feelers out to, sense what's happening in the air, in the zeitgeist, in the culture. You need to have your finger on the pulse, so that when you get the impulse and your intuition kicks in, you're ready to move.
I don't know why, but I'm going back to manifestors, because we mentioned that, they're trailblazers, and you were talking about
Yes.
how they're meant to, like, go at it and go.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned like generators and manifesting generators. They're having this dance with people where it's like, okay, let me talk about what I want to do and then see what feedback I get.
Yes.
With manifestors, because they're meant to be trailblazers, do they need to do that same thing, or are they meant to kind of
No.
be ahead of the curve and let people catch
Yeah.
up to them? I don't know if
Yes,
you
that's
mentioned that
exactly
when
right.
okay.
No, that's exactly right. So manifestors it's not designed by committee. They don't need input from anyone. It's not about checking in with the people. It's really like, hey, I'm going this way. You can jump on board or get out of the way. Like that's manifestors. Their aura, I always think of it like a bowling ball. It's called closed. Their aura is called closed and repelling. So when they move forward, it's like a bowling ball. Things just need to bounce off of them so that they can get to their destination. It really is. It's more dictatorial energy. It's not like we're not voting on this. Like I decide we go that way. And if you're on board, come with me. And if you're not on board, don't come with me. As a little quick celebrity example, I believe that what is his name? The guy who plays Captain Jack in Jack Sparrow.
Oh, Johnny
Anyways,
Depp.
that guy. Yeah, he's a whatever you think of his personality, he is a manifestor. And evidently, manifestors can be very Marmite. Like you either love them or you hate them. But also they have that kind of bowling ball, like I'm going in this direction, don't stop me kind of thing. And that's one of their strengths. But often they say that like him on a film set, he'll come in and be like, and they'll be like, okay, here's the list for today. This is the scenes we're going to do. And he's like, no, I think we're going to do something different. I decided we're going to do this and it's going to be great. So let's make it happen. And people are kind of like, okay, like because it's manifestor energy and it works for him. It would not work for other people, but for some reason it works for manifestors just to say, nope, we're going in this direction now. And everyone's kind of like, okay, like that sounds cool. Like you seem very sure of yourself. Let's go for it. So that's just like a little tiny example of manifestor energy. Now, what they have to do is really trust themselves and be very confident. Because if you doubt yourself and you start asking everyone's advice and everyone's opinion on the direction you're going in, then you're not really using your trailblazer side of you, you know, and so you're not really in your genius as a manifestor.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine being kind of like ahead of the curve, and it's like you just have to go with it. Like
Yeah.
you gotta wait for
Yeah.
us slow pokes to catch up. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
okay, I think that is a great place to take a pause because we've built the foundation. Hopefully by now you've gotten your chart, you're looking at it, and in the next part, Rachel will guide us on what it feels like to be out of alignment based on our type, our strategy, our authority, which I think is even more important to living in alignment because it's easy to say, okay, yes, I'm in flow, everything's great, but this is life, shit happens, we get knocked off our path. And so, A, how do we know we're not in alignment anymore? And then B, how do we get back into that flow? She'll also advise us on how we can practically start applying in our strategy and our authority in our daily life, how we can start, build from there. And, you know, this is for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, who is, you know, a 9 to 5er, or just wants to live a very fulfilling life. You know, how can we start incorporating this into our daily life so that we are fulfilled and we feel amazing? So really great stuff coming up in the next part. I do hope to see you back here with Rachel and I.